Well, Barack Obama was a wildly anti-Israel president. Everybody knew it. Well, now he has emerged from his hidey hole to unleash a massive essay on why, in the end, it's probably the Jews' fault what's going on right now. It's not just Joe Biden who's telling this big lie, number one, which is that Israel, if it weren't for America, Israel would just be gloves off murdering people. Barack Obama, of course, does this as well. Now, Barack Obama, I said many, many years ago, is effectively anti-Semitic in his approach to Israel. This has been true since he became president. Barack Obama is the only president in American history who tried to deny aid to Israel in the middle of, he literally tried to stop the resupply of Iron Dome in the middle of a war in 2014. Barack Obama stocked his administration with people who despise Israel. Most anti-Israel president in my lifetime, bar none, not close. And so it's no shock, which again, melds with Barack Obama's anti-colonialist worldview, which is really a left-wing worldview left over from the 1960s, the basic idea being that the West and its tentacles are everywhere and must be fought everywhere. There was a shift in how Israel was perceived on the far left. From 1948 to 67, Israel was considered actually an anti-colonial state because it had thrown off the British and had allowed the indigenous people of Judea, namely the Jews, to return to their homeland. And then after the Jews won in 67, the Soviet Union decided that Israel was too pro-Western. And so they ginned up this whole new post-colonialist nonsense where Israel is actually a Western colonial occupier, which is an amazing switch in time to save time. But Barack Obama really believes that. That's how he talks about the state of Israel on a routine basis. In fact, in a speech that he made while he was president, talking about the roots of the state of Israel, he didn't attribute it to Israel's historic presence. He didn't attribute it to, Jewish history or Jewish presence in the land. He attributed it all to the Holocaust, meaning Israel was a colonial state, right? That's Barack Obama's mindset. So he has said virtually nothing about this entire conflict. And now he puts out a statement, thoughts on Israel and Gaza, because we needed to hear from him. He was so successful in this arena, was Barack Obama. We need to hear from him. So he throat clears for a couple of paragraphs about how Hamas is bad. Right? It's been 17 days since Hamas launched its horrific attack against Israel, killing over 1,400 Israeli citizens, including defenseless women, children, and the elderly. As I stated in an earlier post, Israel has a right to defend itself. But, right? And there's the big but, as we say. But even as we support Israel, we should also be clear that how Israel prosecutes this fight against Hamas matters. In particular, it matters, as Joe Biden has repeatedly emphasized, that Israel's military strategy abides by international law, including those laws that seek to avoid to every extent possible the death or suffering of civilian populations. Upholding those values is important for its own sake, because it is morally just and reflects our belief in the inherent value of everyday life. By the way, if you cared about any of this, the first priority is the destruction of Hamas. They're the biggest human rights violators on the planet right now. And yet, I don't see Barack Obama talking about that sort of stuff. By the way, he says that he supports Biden's call for the United States to support Israel in going after Hamas, dismantling its military capabilities, and facilitating the safe return of hundreds of hostages to their family. But, by the way, that is not the opposing of Hamas. You'll notice. Dismantling Hamas's military capacity, but leaving them in place would be just fine, apparently, with Barack Obama. And again, Israel has to be leveraged. Barack Obama's going to stand there. He's going to tut them. All those Jews. If I don't tell them that they need to stop, then they're just going to go in there and they're going to be brutal. They're going to be horrible. And then he says, this is an enormously difficult task. War is always tragic. Even the most carefully planned military operations often put civilians at risk. As President Biden noted during his recent visit to Israel, America itself has at times fallen short of our higher values when engaged in war. And in the aftermath of 9/11, the U.S. government wasn't interested in heeding the advice of even our allies when it came to steps we took to protect ourselves against al-Qaeda. Now, after the systematic massacre of Israeli citizens, a massacre that evokes some of the darkest memories of persecution against Jewish people, it's understandable. Many Israelis have demanded their government do whatever it takes to root out Hamas and make sure the attacks never happen again. Still, again, two big buts in one piece. Still, the world is watching closely as events in the region unfold. Any military strategy that ignores the human cost could ultimately backfire. Here, and again, there it is, right? There it is. If Israel defends itself, they're just going to be planting the seeds for more anti-Semitic attacks, which means it's really Israel's fault. It's really Israel's fault in the end. If Israel goes in too hard and they take out Hamas, but Hamas has put too many civilians in front of its rockets, well, all that's going to do is it's going to create more terror against Israel. And then really, who's to blame? The Jews, says Barack Obama. Because, again, the Israeli government's decision to cut off food, water, and electricity to a captive civilian population threatens not only to worsen a growing humanitarian crisis, it could further harden Palestinian attitudes for generations. Oh, the vaunted Palestinian attitudes, because as we know, they are extremely pliable right now and have been for 30 years. So much pliability, so much attempt for peace, so many peace-seeking people who don't exist. That's obviously, that's the big priority. The priority after the murder of 1,500 Jews in Israel and the kidnapping of 200 is the pliability of the Palestinian population. By the way, Israel, I got to say, the Gaza hospitals, where the power is still largely on. It's like Hanukkah over there. It was one day of oil that was supposed to last for one day, lasted for 8. We're now like 18 days into the war, and still, magically, there's still some electricity in northern Gaza. By the way, there's still water in many. Why? Because Israel provided 5 to 10% of all the water in the first place. By the way, there's still full power and water in the south of Gaza. The entire purpose of cutting off the water and power in the north is to send people to the south so you can do military operations in the north. But Barack Obama knows that. Instead, he's just promoting this lie. And it goes on and on and on and on. Pure Talk recently announced they would alleviate $10 million in veteran debt by Veterans Day. Thanks to your support, they're 53% to that goal with 2 weeks to go. Think about this. The U.S. military is made up of 100% volunteers. These are men and women who willingly sacrifice everything they have for this country. When they're done serving, they return home to a tight job market and outrageous living expenses. This is why I'm happy a private company like Pure Talk has jumped in to help. When you switch to Pure Talk's lightning-fast 5G network, they'll donate a portion of every new order to this noble cause. You can make a real difference just by choosing superior cell phone service. So you get better service at a lower cost, and you happen to be helping veterans at the same time. Pure Talk's plans start at just $20 a month, offering unlimited talk, text, more data, and a mobile hotspot. Just head on over to puretalk.com/Shapiro. Make that switch today. Let's rally together, show unwavering support for our veterans. Visit puretalk.com/Shapiro. Switch to Pure Talk today. It's the right move. It's the American way. Again, visit puretalk.com/Shapiro today. I take all my calls via Pure Talk. They have an excellent cell phone network. The tower network is great. The coverage is great. Costs me less money. Go check it out right now. puretalk.com/Shapiro. The Men's Shapiro Show is supported by Grand Canyon University, an affordable private Christian university with a vibrant campus in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. According to niche.com, Grand Canyon University is ranked in the top 20 in the country. GCU is a missional, Christ-centered university that strives to foster a culture of community, giving, and impact. GCU's goal is to help you develop into a servant leader who makes a difference through finding your purpose. GCU integrates the free market system with a welcoming Christian worldview into your bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree. They have over 330 academic programs, 270 of which are available online. At GCU, you'll have support from your own university counselor who takes a personalized approach to helping you achieve your goals. So find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Visit gcu.edu today. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu today. Barack Obama, long essay lecturing the Jews, of course. He says, finally, in dealing with what is an extraordinarily complex situation, again, there's the complexity. There's so much nuance, so much because standing in the moral middle allows you to stand with the bad guys while pretending that you're not. He says, in dealing with what's an extraordinarily complex situation where so many are in pain and passions are understandably running high, all of us need to do our best to put our best values rather than our worst fears on displays. That means actively opposing anti-Semitism in all of its forms everywhere. It means rejecting efforts to minimize the terrible tragedy the Israeli people have just endured. Notice the Israeli people, not the Jewish people, the Israeli people, as well as the morally bankrupt suggestion that any cause can somehow justify the deliberate slaughter of innocent people. It means rejecting anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, or anti-Palestinian sentiment. It means refusing to lump all Palestinians with Hamas or other terrorist groups. It means guarding against dehumanizing language toward the people of Gaza. Okay, how about this? How about none of this has been dehumanizing? Civilians in Gaza are still civilians, and it's Hamas's fault they're in the way. Quote, it means acknowledging that Palestinians have also lived in disputed territories for generations, that many of them were not only displaced when Israel was formed, but continue to be forcibly displaced by a settler movement that too often has received tacit or explicit support from the Israeli there it is. It's the two states, all the settlers, all the usual reasons why Palestinian desire for Israeli extermination is totally fine. It's because somebody built a bathroom in Efrat. That's really the problem. That Palestinian leaders who've been willing to make concessions for two-state solution have too often had too little to show for their efforts. Who are these Palestinian leaders who've been super willing to make concessions for a two-state solution? Who are they? Name them. Seriously, name them. I'd like to hear. Full list. Go. Oh, you don't have any? Oh, there's a shock. And that it is possible for people of goodwill to champion Palestinian rights and oppose certain Israeli government policies in the West Bank and Gaza without being anti-Semitic. Nobody even made the accusation that you have to agree with everything Israel does. But you do have to look at reality in the face. Reality in the face. The Palestinian Authority seeks the destruction of Israel. They're not shy about this. They lie to the West, and then in Arabic, they say what they actually think, which is solidarity with Hamas. Palestinian Islamic Jihad is a terror group. Hamas is a terror group. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I do. I know exactly what's going on here. You got to promote the lie. And then, of course, he refers to Thomas Friedman and Ben Rhodes and all the people who agree with him on the super moral complexity of the situation, which really amounts to Israel is to blame. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.